it felt like, God, I mean, how many games are Huddersfield going to lose by, close margin this year? It's an
issue to assess when they reset for next year, definitely.
Yeah, completely, because they could have been in the six automatically if they just turned a couple of them around. But yeah, it didn't surprise me that Warrington came out on top of this one. They definitely had more to play for. But yeah, a good win for them, and 4 points, and
A few key things to pick out, I suppose. Then it was Cudjow's 300th game, so well done to him. There was Charnley going very close, but held up by Gaskell, of all people, defensively, remarkably. But Charnley dislocated his shoulder. That's a worry for them going forward. Potentially, Josh. I know he's not had a great try scoring year by any stretch of the imagination, but he's got to be an automatic pick, hasn't he, for the side. Then there was the weird Jason Clark situation where he appeared to hurt his wrist or arm, but went off for a head assessment. But apparently what had happened is the way he fell on his arm had caused some sort of nerve thing to kick off inside his neck and head. So that's why he failed his head assessment. That was a weird one. And then there was the non-sim binning and then the sim binning, wasn't there? So there was I can't remember what the non-sim bin was now, but Caesar was sim bin for Descent because he kicked a ball away when he was chasing it through out of frustration.
Yeah.
Hicks had to do it because it's the way the rules are written, but it did feel a bit excessive at the time, didn't it?
Yeah, it's my note on it is it's fine by the letter of the law, but it feels a bit harsh, and it did prevent Warrington getting a quick 20-meter restart, didn't it? So yeah, it's a yellow card, but we've seen, we certainly saw things more card worthy in other games this weekend, didn't we?
Yes, which we'll get onto in a second. Darryl Clark's try where young Josh Fulis made the break down the left-hand side. I mean, there were some questions to ask of Huddersfield's defence in that, but the kid did really well, and it was a great try, wasn't it? A fantastic try.
Yeah. I think Clark rightly got the 3 points. I think he was there to finish things off. But yeah, they were Warrington were good enough, I would say.
Yep. So Charnley and Clark injuries, they're going to wait on, see what happens there. But we'll see for the playoffs. They have got a couple of weeks till they play again from this game. Right, we'll move on to the final game of the Friday night slot, and this was between top place at the time St Helens and second place at the time Wigan, to see what would happen, to see if they could both overcome the fact that Warrington were hot on their heels after that Salford victory. It was 6-4 to the Saints at half time, but it ended 18-6 to the Wigan Warriors. Chris Kendall was the referee. Do you want to take us through the stats?
Yep, so lots of narrow stat wins build up to a 4-1 win for Wigan. 131 more metres at a 0.2 metre per carry better average gain, plus 4 more breaks, more busts, and even an extra offload, plus a slightly better tackle success rate. For Wigan, Bevan French with a try assist, 5 tackle busts, 194 metres and 2 clean breaks. Liam Farrell with 56 tackles, 16 of which were for marker, none of which were missed, and 166 metres. Zach Hardacre with a try assist, 8 tackle busts and 164 metres, even if he couldn't kick a goal for Toffee. And Sam Powell with 52 tackles, 13 of which were from marker. For Saints, James Roby, Mr. Automatic as normal, 67 tackles, 13 of which were from marker. James Bentley, who started with one of the worst top notch you'll ever see, 59 tackles, 16 of which were from marker and 5 tackle busts. Morgan Knowles, 50 tackles, 14 of which were from marker. And Tommy Makinson ended with 134 metres.
Which is about 30 or 40 down on what he normally gets, but that shows what Wigan were able to do to restrict yardage in this game. Matt Speakman 20 said, finally Lamb gets his first derby win. Shows what having actual men playing in the forwards can do. Set up the platform. Halves played really well. When was the last time this Saints team got well and truly battered for almost the full 80? It's a good point. Probably 2 years ago when Wigan beat them was the last time they were beaten this dominantly.
Yeah, maybe even the Challenge Cup final actually last year.
Oh, good point. Good point.
Maybe.
Well, no, that came. I think that came. That obviously came
before?
after that game, but Warrington had beaten them earlier this year as well, hadn't they? Actually, come to think of it, at Warrington before the shutdown. That was a pretty comprehensive one, if I remember rightly.
But anyway. Everyone's forgotten that. That almost doesn't exist.
I know. I still keep telling people Wigan's most complete performance of the year was away at Huddersfield in February, and everyone's like, "What? When did that happen?"
St David said, Wolf made a mess of last week. Mistake 1, if we beat Salford, we'd likely win the minor premiership. Mistake 2, tried to smash Wigan down the middle with a light mobile pack, like using your Rolex to hammer a walnut. Paolo, for crying out loud. Wigan deserve the win. Gobshites and shithouses, but worthy winners. Onwards.
White Pie said, a fantastic game of rugby league from the two best sides in the league. Brutal and absorbing first half hour before Lomax breaks or Coote score. A neat Bibby Gather score Wigan back in the game, and then second half was just Wigan making less mistakes and capitalising on Saints' errors. Greenwood should have seen red, but an excellent Wigan showing, which along with French re-signing makes up for the shit show that is the new logo. There's Lee's view on the logo.
There you go. And Mike Webb 58 says, through gritted teeth, 4 tries to 1 says it all, and Wigan were clearly the better team, especially in the second half. Disappointing, though, that the headshots continued even when the game was won. Having seen Wolf's post-match interview, hopefully the Saints players will be more frightened of him than of the Wigan pack come the rematch.
I don't know about the headshots continued because the penalty count was 3-2 in this match, so I don't think it was a high shot fest. However, the one that is being referred to, the Joe Greenwood one, was a bad one. It was direct to the head. I don't think Joe Greenwood has the capability of being a dirty player in that sense. We never saw it, before from him, but it was a bad miss of a tackle, that the high tackle on Matty Lees. Luckily, no ill effects to Lees, and I suppose a yellow or a red at that stage was irrelevant on the way it worked in that game because he would have missed the rest of the game either way, but it was a red card.
Yeah, it felt like a red card to me because, like, when he left marker, it was the only thing in his mind. You know what I mean? You can just tell when a player's lost it, and for me, Greenwood had lost his cool at that point, and he was. It wasn't a careless arm; it was a reckless arm, and for me, it was a definite red card, and I don't know whether I disagree with the grading of it or not. He got a 2-match penalty notice for a grade C.
That feels right to me. Isn't that the same as what Chris Hill got for his tackle at the start of the season on Sam Powell? And I think, this was the same sort of thing, forcible direct contact to the head.
Fair enough. But yeah,
I don't know. Do you think it should have been more than I'm taking it?
Well, it just felt very blatant and more than that, just stupid. Because they're completely right. The game had, Wigan had gotten beat by that point, and it's just a stupid.
Which game was it where we saw the shoulder to the head that just got a penalty given on it? Was that the Huddersfield Warrington game, or was it one of the games the night before?
The Mellor one.
Oh, it was a yellow card that as well. That should have been a red card too, shouldn't it?
I thought that was a yellow. The difference I make between this and the Greenwood and the Mellor one is I thought this one was more reckless, and I thought the Mellor one was careless. That's the distinction I would make.
Fair enough. Well, he's been obviously he had a really good game as well when he came off the bench. Joe Greenwood,
Yeah.
probably his best Wigan game since the last time we beat Saints at Saints 2 years ago. Or he had a couple of good games against Salford last year as well, but he's not been fantastic for Wigan in the last year and a half. And in this game, he came on and was very good, had an impact, had a really good involvement in the try for Jackson Hastings that won the game ultimately. There was the other controversial moment that people talked a lot about was the forward pass in the build-up to Bevan French's try. First of all, let's just appreciate the Bevan French part of that try, because that was two passes after the forward pass, or a pass and a run and a pass after, whatever. It was after the forward pass.
Yeah, it was the Luluai pass to Isa that was flat, being generous.
I've watched it loads of times, and it should have been called forward, I think, by the officials. But I have seen people put images up of it where Luluai ends up ahead of the ball, and where it suggests the ball initially went backwards out of his hands before floating forwards. But to everyone looking, it was a forward pass, and no one would have argued with it getting called as a forward pass. Yeah, what I do have issue with is
like
we only talk about forward passes that aren't given when tries occur. But a couple of minutes later, Saints had a forward pass in the middle of the field, about 20 metres out from Wigan's line, but because Wigan defended it properly,
don't count.
It does. No one's talking about it being egregious that a forward pass was missed. And I get it. No. I get it. I do get why. But let's have some perspective when we lose our shit about these things. I think. But Wigan was so much the better side in this game. In the first half, both sides were very good. In the second half, Wigan didn't do anything wrong until Greenwood, and Saints did do a lot of things out of character, forcing things.
Yeah.
Not delivering.
Saints got into that pattern that they sometimes get into, where they, it's rare that Saints lose a physical encounter, primarily because they usually have Walmsley on the pitch, and obviously that's a big miss. But when they do sometimes lose, as we talked about against Warrington and against Wigan as well, they do sometimes get into the panic mode and start to push things that are not really on, and they don't rely on the process. And because it happens so rarely for them, I don't think they're quite used to adjusting game plan. And yeah, Wigan smothered them really. And yeah, obviously it could have been a much worse score if conversions had come into it.
Wigan smothered all of Saints' backline. I think Saints did a good job at cutting the opportunities for the golden edge down. Burgess and Gildart were really well contained, but Hardacre really stood up on the other side, so it counteracted it, whereas Wigan were on top of all of Saints' outside backs. All of them made less metres than they normally make, by a good amount. It was just so intense as well. It was so intense, it was so exciting. If Wigan had lost this game, if a couple of things had gone differently in the middle of that second half and Wigan had lost this game, this still would have been a fantastic match. It's the kind of game if you were there, you'd have walked away from thinking you've seen a fantastic match. Like the first game at the start of last season when Wigan lost at St Helens, but it was a fantastic match. It was 22-12, I think it was in the end. It was a great match though. Right. Did we do the League Express Albert Goldthorpe? Luluai got 3, French got 2, Lomax got 1, and I can't really argue with that other than to say I could have given points out to every Wigan player if I'd have.
Well, I know that. I thought Lomax did particularly well to keep bouncing back, because he didn't half get some contact in this game, didn't he? Lots of kind of. I'm not saying a couple of them were a bit close to the line and kind of.
Yeah, there was one that was penalised for a high shot. I think Farrell was a bit tired, reach maybe towards the end of the first half.
Yes, that was a classic grab kind of high tackle, wasn't it? Kind of beating for pace type stuff. But he did, he did seem to be on the floor quite a lot. But he kept getting up and he kept trying. It just for whatever partly through Saints kind of panicking slightly and more